Here we go. You're live.
Welcome to Hope Rising Podcast. Please like and please share. What is it
That was good. You want to tell them to subscribe?
and subscribe. Bye.
All right, everybody. So listen, if you guys are listening in right now, you are listening to a special live episode. This is the first live episode. This is the first one, okay? So it's only going to get gooder and gooder from here. So here is the deal. One of the things that I wanted to do this season was to make sure that I was coming on live, number one, because I want to have interactions with people, with the actual listeners of the podcast. But number two, I wanted to have some opportunities where I could have real conversations with my bride. And so you guys, if you guys are jumping on visually, or if you're jumping on and just listening to this podcast episode, this is an episode where I'm sitting down with my wife, Ashleigh Martin. And a lot of these conversations, we're going to have different conversations. They're going to be about different parts of leadership, walking with faith, and so many different other things. And so, so right now, I'm going to just ask you, Ash, would you introduce yourself? How do you introduce yourself when you introduce yourself to people?
I introduce myself as Ashleigh Martin. I am a daughter of the Most High. I am a wife to Maurice F. Martin. I am a mother to Naima and Samuel. I am a teacher. I am a lover. I am all of those things.
So I was thinking, for the first time that we talked together, it can be a little bit more interview style than it might be other weeks, just so that they can get a chance to know you. But obviously there will be some back and forth conversation.
Okay.
And so I guess today I want to start with this. You know, we have this this journey we've been on, the hope journey, the faith journey. And so many people haven't been there with us. They haven't seen us in our journey of growing and learning and facing and achieving and evolving and overcoming and all these different things that we've been a part of. And so, you know, when you tell people about like our journey, what do you say?
Our journey has been a wild one. And it's been wild in the sense of the things that you don't think would happen happened often and in small windows of time. Right? Like people generally, like, the worst thing you think can happen is that you lose close family members. Most people don't lose 5 close family members in a year. Like, that's not normally a thing. You're like, I really hope I don't lose my job, or, you know, that where I've invested time and energy and effort to build, you know, those places won't let me go. That generally doesn't happen in, you know, 4 places in a 2-year period.
Well,
so I would say wild in the sense of unexpected. But we've trucked on along by the grace of God, because we learn to look for Him. You know, a lot of times you face tragedies, you face frustrations, and you don't look for God. You look for something that will bring you a sense of peace, or what will be the fuel for you to keep going when you feel like giving up. You don't necessarily look for God Himself. You're looking for something that you need from God, not necessarily God Himself. And we learned pretty quickly, by His grace, to start looking for Him. And in looking for Him, we were able to not only endure, but learn how to thrive and overcome despite the circumstances.
That's good. Listen, if you guys are on YouTube right now, if you're on Facebook right now, we're actually live. And so if you guys have questions that you want to ask, if you have things, that this is going to be a thing where I'm going live every week. We're going to try to do as many with the 2 of us as possible, so you guys can feel like you are interacting. And maybe you guys are listening on the podcast right now. You're like, that's not fair, Will. then the next Thursday,
Yes.
make sure you jump
Come
on
find us.
with us. So you said something there. You said we have to look for God.
Mhm.
And I think that there's a lot of people who exist who they would certainly love to look for God, but they don't
Mhm.
actually know what that means or what that looks like. So how
Mhm.
does a person even get to a place of healthy spirituality? Like, what does it mean to look for God? Like, that is a concept that is lost on people. And it's not
Mhm.
because people are dumb. It's because it's
Right.
not as easy as people say it is.
Mhm.
What does that look like for a person to look for God in their daily interactions? Not just on Sunday morning, not
Mhm.
just on Wednesday night, but on a random Tuesday at
Mhm.
12 o'clock when life is hard. How does a person do that?
That is a brilliant question. I think, speaking for myself and for us, we started to look for God because we were in places where there really wasn't anything that could comfort us.
Mhm.
There was nothing that could soothe us. There wasn't anything that could begin to touch the deepness of pain or frustration that we were experiencing.
Mhm.
So at that point, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it is easier, right? Because there's not a bottle that will do it. There's not a person that will do it. There's not a movie or a song or a hobby that will begin to touch that wound and make you feel calm about it and give you a sense of peace. So for us, at least for me, it was, I had to look up, and it had to be the thing that caught my attention.
Yeah. You had to look up.
I had
And
to
it
look
had
up.
to be the thing that caught your attention.
Yes, like the visual I have is I'm down low, like I'm in a bunker or I'm in a hole.
Mhm.
And there's like, you've seen the old war scenes,
Mhm.
and there's bullets and, cannons and all of the things. And you look up, something has to catch your attention throughout all of the chaos that's going on. And that thing is him.
Mhm.
So it's really, it's when you're in a place where you can't even be selfish.
Mhm.
Selfishness doesn't even help you in that sense.
Please stop moving
please
the furniture. The microphone is very loud, so we just hear a bunch of sounds in the background. We really live, like we live with like kids in the room, like we live.
Yeah, one kid in the room, one napping.
He coming.
Yeah.
So I'm just letting them know, some things is gonna happen in this episode. I've been watching a lot of Tim Ross, and like he really don't care.
He doesn't.
Like he's just all the way bold. So we can get there.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I'm not there yet, and we don't have the same equipment at this point. So,
That's true.
Jesus. All right. So you look up, and when you look up, you have to choose faith, because the reality is, when a person looks up, there's more than one thing you can find.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
There are things good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's different levels and versions of good.
Yes.
Right. And
yes.
one thing we know is that everything that is good is not God.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so now a person, let's say there's somebody they're listening today, and they've been on a journey of trying to look up. They've been down. Mm-hmm. 2023 was a down year. 2023, they had some chaos, some catastrophe, some tragedy, some heartbreak. Mm-hmm. And this year, they're trying to build some get some healthy systems in place. They're in the place that we're in, right? We're literally trying to fight our way into systems and habits and patterns, and it ain't easy, right? Mm-hmm. And so, how does a person begin to do that as they begin to look up? What does it look like practically? What does that look like?
First thing that comes to me is death of self. Because if you're looking to implement a system, then you're not looking for comfort. Mm-hmm. You're looking for stability. Mm-hmm. You're looking for something that can continue running, whether your hands are deeply in it, mm-hmm. or whether you're bringing someone else in to put their hands on it. So that's not a comfort thing. This isn't like, I like it this way, so let me do it this way. This is a structural, foundational, it ain't pretty, but it works.
Why do you say that we're not looking for comfort?
Because comfort is the death of growth.
Whoop! There we go. There we go. Now, comfort is the death of growth.
Yes.
Prove it.
Prove it. Because when you're comfortable, you're not productive. When you're comfortable, your main focus is yourself and how you feel. And our feelings are not something that we can depend and rely on.
Well. Here we are. If you guys are just joining us, make sure you are clicking like, make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're leaving comments. I promise you we're really reading the comments as we go.
We are.
So there is this understanding that when I'm comfortable, I have an inevitability of ending up in stagnance.
Yes.
Right? I'm comfortable. And now when I think about what it will take to grow from here, move from here, change from here, evolve from here, whatever it is, it's scary and overwhelming because it's gonna require discomfort.
Absolutely.
It's gonna require a change of routine, a change of pattern, or me facing something.
Yes.
That I've grown accustomed to running away from or avoiding, right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like? How does a person get more comfortable with getting uncomfortable?
I think you just have to do it. I don't know that you ever get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think that you just realize that you view comfort as an obstacle. And at some point, you're overcoming obstacles to get where you want to go. Right? Like I doubt that anyone in New York City enjoys the traffic. Right? I don't think anyone in New York City is comfortable with the traffic and the fact that it takes you hours to get a couple miles. But it's an obstacle to get where you need to go. How badly do you want to get there? You'll endure the traffic. So I don't think that you ever get comfortable with it. You just realize it's something that needs to be done and you build the skill to get it done.
Yeah, I think that building the skill to get it done. I listened to this video last week, and it was like on repeat for me because I needed the lesson very badly. Yeah. And it was a simple lesson. I think her name was Dawn Staley. She's a college basketball coach. She used to play, and she was talking to her team, and this whole lecture was, hard is not going away, so you have to learn how to handle hard better, right? And it like slapped me in the face, hurt my feelings, checked me in a couple of different ways, because the reality is the hard is not going anywhere. I think that oftentimes when we choose to stay comfortable, it's because we think if I stay comfortable long enough, an easier solution or an easier pathway to my growth is going to appear.
Yes.
And the reality is, it's not coming.
It's not.
The only thing that's going to come is your willingness to be resilient, or perseverant, and overcome the things that are standing in your way.
Yes. And I think some of that has to do with discerning the seasons.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because if you if you think about the summer, there's fruit and vegetables in abundance. Every garden you go to, you hit mid-July, you hit August, you're able to walk up and pick whatever fruit or vegetable that you would like to have. It's still hard work. Harvest is hard, right? Harvesting and then preserving or whatever you're doing, whether you're canning it or you're storing it, it's all hard work. But for that season, when it's flowing in abundance, it seems easy. And so sometimes we look at the season where it's growing in abundance, yet it's not quite ready for harvest. And we think that that is supposed to be the norm when it's just the season. So when another season comes around and you reach the winter and you're craving fresh foods, I know a lot of people don't eat seasonally, but you're not wanting, canned strawberries to make it a pie. You want a fresh strawberry to bite into and feel like it's June. You're like, this is hard and I'm frustrated and it's not supposed to be this way. Well, it is, because this is the season. But if you don't shift your mindset to match the season that you're in or the season that you're going into, then it all seems like it's wrong when it's really just the season.
Mm. Well, and I was thinking about that concept of harvest, right? Because if you were to own a farm and it was to be harvest season, that actually requires an entire element of discipline, right?
Yes.
That if I'm going to harvest, that there are so many crops that have yielded produce for the season, and I'm going to have to get up in a timely and repetitive and consistent and disciplined manner to reap the harvest, because if not, then there will then be spoils, right?
Absolutely.
I'm going to waste things. And I think, because, obviously we serve leaders and we work with leaders and kind of what we're doing in our journey. One of the things that sometimes you see is that people walk into a new season of their lives. They're transitioning into, more eyes are on them, more respect is being garnered, more excitement is being built around them. But if you don't harvest with the consistency that you need to, if you don't, and we've learned this in our own lives, in our own journeys, right? If we don't we don't cultivate the relationships, if we don't work on the feelings and the emotions and the communication in our marriage, with our children, and with the other people that we serve, then ultimately what happens is things begin to spoil.
They do. And it's not just, I love that you said that, because most people have figured out how to harvest it. What they don't know how to do is preserve it.
Come on.
And that's where we get into a bad situation, right? Because you can only eat so much of it. Especially with us, we live in Northeast Ohio, we live in the Midwest, so we have all 4 seasons. You can't grow everything outside all season, all year round. So you grow as much as you need for the year until the next season. Well, you can't just take the corn and put it in a box and stick it in your basement and expect to be able to eat it in March. It's not going to last, right? So it's not enough for you to just get it off of the plant before it spoils. You then have to take it and transfer it into a form that can hold out for a longer period of time, so that when you need to reach up on the shelf and grab it, it's accessible to you and you're able to digest it and use it. And most of us, we take the harvest and we get it all down and we're like, woo, there's nothing left on the vine, there's nothing left on the stalk, we're good, and we stop there. And then 6 months from now, when you're needing to pull on some of that, it's spoiled or it's rotten or someone's come and stolen it, because you haven't preserved it. You haven't packaged it in a way that you can pull on it when you need it.
And those are, there's a lot of moments, and if you can, like, lean a little bit more in, because I think that they're probably hearing me a little better at this point. I'm thinking about some very real moments in our lives when we put things away in storage, and you go back to the storage and the things have gone bad, or storing things in the basement and there's been a flood, right? That sometimes the things that we just assume will last the test of time, because we didn't necessarily do our complete or due diligence with how to package it, or how to wrap it, or how to protect it, or how to protect it long term. Then what happens is, when life kicks in, when the adversity kicks in, the things that you thought would be there, they fall apart because of your lack of understanding of how to preserve it. Right? But those are also great moments for life lessons that lead to wisdom.
They're lessons. The point is to learn, right? And the point is to move. The scripture talks about the one who looks for rain will never plant, right? In the one who, and you're looking at those situations, you have to move. If you're always watching for rain, you will never plant, because there will always be that one cloud that makes you think there's going to be a rainstorm. So you have to move regardless, and you have to be discerning in how you move. So you're just layering lessons on top of each other. And if you're surrendered to the Spirit as you're doing it, and doing all of the soul work that you need to do, paired with the guiding of the Holy Spirit, then you'll find yourself mastering lessons and layering new layers on top of things. And it's mastery all the way through. Myron
Say
Golden
that
talks about
part
that
again.
beautifully.
Say that part again. I need to hear it.
If you're doing the soul work that you need to be, right? Because we connect with God by our spirit. Your soul is there, and it's a vehicle for the earthly realm. But it doesn't to be brought into compliance. It doesn't like to aid in what the spirit knows it needs to do. So you have to bring it into subjection. You have to do the work for your soul to submit to your spirit. So when you're pairing that with hearing God, it's not enough just to hear God. How many people have we seen who have heard God and nothing came of it? Or they found themselves worse off trying to pursue what they heard God do, but they weren't healthy or whole or surrendered in the process. So you have to do the soul work so that you're able to submit yourself to the spirit, so that when you hear the spirit, you're able to go. Right? It's like trying to run a marathon without training. And you're sitting on your couch eating bonbons, but you can hear the gunshot go off telling you the race is starting. And now you're running from your couch, dropping your bonbons, saying, I'm going to run 28 miles. You're not going to get very far. And if you do, the negative effects it's going to have on your body and on your mindset and on how you're able to achieve that goal or realize that goal is going to be deeply affected. And it's not going to be the result that you want. So you have to pair those two things together. So that, and as you do that, you begin to master a thing. And it's like math. You master one topic, and then you add another one, and you master that topic, and you add another. And the next thing you know, you have the skill or wisdom to do more than you thought you were capable of.
I was thinking, when we talk about these things, sometimes they can get lost in translation depending on the type of thinker who's listening, and the type of learner who's listening, and the level of spiritual comfort people are at, right?
Yes.
And I was thinking, I saw that Jowdy Eric Matthews, shout out to him. If you guys haven't seen last week's episode of Hope Rising, go back to last week's episode and check it out. I sat down with the cast of King of the Block, and fantastic film. You guys will not only love the interview, you'll love watching the film. Absolutely. And I was having a conversation with him recently, and he said something that was just something I needed to hear. At this point, we've done work together for the last 10 years. And he said, Maurice, your problem is not and never has been and probably never will be your gift.
Right.
He said, your problem is your ability to pivot. He said, when life happens, life requires you to pivot. Your career, your objectives, your work, whatever it is, you're going to have to pivot. And I think that what training for a marathon does for a person, it teaches them how to pivot when the pain comes.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
You don't just train for conditioning. You train to learn that sometimes your body starts to tell you no. Then you have to tell your body no.
Exactly.
Right? You have to tell your body, we're in it for the long haul. This feeling will pass.
Right.
And we will feel so great when we get to the other side, when we get to the finish line.
Yes. You're not going to die in the process. You are not going to die. Your limbs are not going to fall off. None of that is going to happen. Yeah.
And sometimes I won't believe that until I get into the practice of saying it and then experiencing it.
And that's what it is. It's a practice.
Yeah.
It's a practice. You have to practice it. It's not natural. It's not normal. It's a practice. It's a discipline. It's something that you build and cultivate over time so that you can recall it when you need to, because you put in the time to practice it. You made it a habit. You built muscle memory. I'm a trained dancer, danced through college, and that's one thing that you rely on, muscle memory. I don't always have a mirror in front of me to know where alignment is with my arm or a leg extension or a pointed toe. There's not always a mirror in front of me. So I have to train my body to memorize that position via the muscle because I can't always rely on my eye.
Well, that was good. I can't always rely on my eye. And I think that's a part of the journey that so many leaders need to lean into.
Yes.
That faith in the process of building a thing or growing a thing or enhancing a thing will always require you to trust during moments where you cannot see the fruit of your labors.
Yes.
Right? So there's going to be these very significant moments in time that will come when there's resistance all around. Things don't look good. They don't feel good.
Right.
And yet you must keep moving forward and plowing forward
Yes.
with, and not just doing it, but doing it with the right attitude and the right mentality.
Absolutely, because it's all the conditioning and the training.
Mm-hmm.
It's all what you're going to recall. When you get in that moment and you say, all right, I've been doing this thing and I need it to come up right now. It's going to come up the way that you practice it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're able to overcome because, they said that I wasn't going to never be able to do nothing,
Mm-hmm.
then whenever you recall that, you're going to have someone to be angry at in unhealed pain, which is volatile,
Sure.
to get you through. When you don't have that, if you find yourself at peace in all of your relationships and you find yourself doing well in your career, but you face a challenge you have to overcome, you're not going to have what you need, right? That's not a method that will stand the test of time.
That's it. In the addiction world, a lot of people who are listening know that I'm a chemical dependency counselor, and so we talk a lot in the mental health world about automatic thoughts and automatic thinking, right? Yes. That you've lived through enough life that your brain will now just kind of like automatically fire certain thoughts out when you experience certain pain, certain triggers, certain experiences.
Yes.
And so now what I'm doing is I'm now trying to reprogram myself. And it doesn't start with the next tragedy. It starts way before that, right?
Absolutely.
The programming starts when it's the little discomfort and the subtle discomfort that I tell no, or I fight through, or I overcome.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think about the person who screams bloody murder when they close their finger in a drawer. What's going to happen if you have to have a surgery? If that's how you handle a pinch, how are you going to handle anything more? So then you're not really ready, because at the end of the day, right? Because what it all boils down to is you need your energy to work for you in the most efficient manner. And so all of these little things, like I need someone to be angry at to be successful, or, I just decide that I'm going to flop out on the floor at the smallest amount of pain because I don't want to have self-control. Like, these are all of the things that take your energy. So as you're walking this journey or running this marathon, because life is long term, it's not a sprint, it's a long race. So when you get to the end and you need to pull something out of your back pocket, you wasted it flopping on the floor when you pinched your finger. Right? So all of these habits are training. Most people, their complaint is they run out of gas. They run out of gas, they're burnt out, they just can't go any further. That's the biggest complaint you hear of people. And it's because we're misdistributing our energy, because we don't actually know what our end result is. Because when you know what you want at the end, it is very clear what is a waste of time and what is a benefit, even when it seems like it's not. Because you understand that even though, taking, I was a dancer in high school. Our dance teacher did a class for football players, and she taught them ballet, right? And most of them were like, what is going on? This is stupid. I don't like it. All of those things. But the ones who locked in played better on the field, because they realized that the training of ballet, which seemed to have nothing to do with football, was actually teaching them to elongate the strength in their muscle, so that when they take a hit and their elbow bends or their knee bends, they have more muscle spread across that bend. So they weren't breaking and snapping things and tearing ligaments and tendons like the others were. Because they realized that the means to the end, the ballet that didn't seem to make sense for football, was actually strengthening. It was elongating their strength, so that when they took a hit, they were able to endure it better than the next man.
That's good. That's good.
And when you have a clear focus in the end, you're able to tell what is benefiting you and what is not, even when it looks crazy to everyone else.
Yeah, and you can see how that applies to every part of life.
Every part of life, yes.
It doesn't. I don't care if we're talking about being in the boardroom, being in a marriage, being being a parent,
being a neighbor,
right? Yeah. Whatever it is that we're talking, being an employee, being an employer. Go where you want to with that.
Yes.
There is this reality that when tough times hit, I don't really understand what I need out of the tough time. right? Because
Mhm.
tough times when they come, you used the word before, obstacles. You either see them as obstacles or you allow yourself to see them as opportunities.
That's right.
Well, the reality is it's an opportunity, but I don't understand the opportunity
Mhm.
necessarily, right?
Mhm.
This thing may be growing my patience. It may be making me more mature. It may be giving me new perspective or new understanding.
Mhm.
You can't possibly know all of the things you'll glean from a moment till
Mhm.
the moment passes and you face the next moment that
Absolutely.
shows you why you had to go through that experience.
Yeah, I think about Dr. Miles Monroe was teaching, and he talked about in a lot of the Asian languages, there's not a word for, I believe, failure.
Mm.
The word is opportunity.
Mhm.
So when we would say, oh, the it has collapsed, our economy has collapsed,
Mhm.
and we failed. Like they don't have that word. They would say, oh, the economy has collapsed, and this is an opportunity.
Mhm.
Right? Which is why you see a lot of Asian nations, standing through hard times just because of the mindset of, oh, the market crashed. We're not talking about this being a bad thing. We see this as an opportunity.
Mm.
Let's go in and buy out.
And so do the best and brightest business people
Absolutely.
in America
Absolutely.
and in other countries, right? That people
Yeah.
see that times of tragedy are also often times of growth and
Yes.
development.
Yes.
And that's not to say that you don't mourn with those who mourn,
right.
but there's an understanding that in the dark times
Mhm.
there is light,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And yeah, that is so real. I see right now we have a number of people watching. If you guys have questions, if you have comments, we want to see them. If you want Ash to answer something, me to answer something, you can feel free to jump in. If you're watching right now and you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, please do that.
Yes.
Listen, we are in season 2. This is the second live that I've done of the 2 seasons, but I'm going to be doing a lot more. But if you guys haven't seen the episodes so far this season, definitely go back. And by the way, the podcast is found everywhere you find the podcast. So yes, there's the videos, but you can also listen everywhere that you can listen to podcasts. So if anybody has anything specific, I know we're not going to go too much longer, but if you got it, we want it. So there's an opportunity in everything, in a lot of these, as you say, these individuals have found it, have discovered it. There's somebody who's listening or watching today, and they're having a hard time understanding or finding or comprehending that there really is an opportunity in front of them. They can see the challenge. They can see the heaviness and feel and sense the heaviness, but they don't necessarily sense the purpose in it. They don't necessarily sense God in it.
That's fair.
What does a person do with that?
The first thing I would say is release yourself of the belief that you have to.
Won't do that again.
Release yourself from the belief that you have to see purpose or see God or understand what's happening. Because you don't to be successful. I don't know anything about electric cars. I know absolutely nothing about electric cars. Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
You don't know anything yet.
I don't know anything yet about electric cars. But I do know that if I purchase Tesla stock and hold on to it, I can make a lot of money.
Well.
Right? So it's about not giving up hope. You can't give up hope. And hope, I mean, it can start off in a person. It can start off in a desired outcome. But at the end of the day, your hope is a desire beyond you.
Make that one make sense. Your hope is a desire beyond you. That is so deep.
Your hope is a desire beyond you. And if it's beyond you, you most likely aren't going to understand it, see it, or comprehend it. But if you search deep within yourself, despite all of the things that are happening, and even if you may have a suicidal thought or tendency, there is something that wants to live. It may not be the majority, But there is something that wants to live, and that is hope, because we are not our own.
Mm.
We did not come from ourselves, and we are not sustained by ourselves.
Mm.
So there's something beyond you that you are connected to. And that is the thing that is the light in the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you walk towards that, the more you listen to that or align yourself with that, the more of that you'll find.
Mm. I was thinking about, have you ever heard that saying where they say, if you can think of the dream, you're dreaming too small?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
That if your goal, if the goal, the dream is something that seems easy or seems easily accessible, it's probably really not that worth it.
Right.
I'll say it a different way. This is how Mary Jean used to say it.
Mary Jean is the GOAT.
Right? My grandmother, she's always said to me, anything that's worth having is worth the struggle. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that includes the struggle to comprehend what you're doing, mm-hmm. the struggle to comprehend the imagination it even takes to understand, if you're building the business can be bigger than you can think of.
Yes.
Right? If you're raising the family can be stronger than what you think of. I remember one time we were having a heated fellowship. and I said something like, I just don't know who it is that you've ever seen that has done what you're asking me to do. And you said, who said you were being compared to them? And there was this moment that I had when I said, huh. See that, those are those practical mm-hmm. things that I teach people all the time that I'll never talk about. Uh-huh. Right. But there was the understanding that I had was, I don't need to have ever seen the wife that I'm pushing for you to become. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have ever seen the husband to know what I'm capable of. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to have ever seen the children to know what we can speak into our children's lives.
Absolutely. And
I think that that's the key, that sometimes you're speaking into a thing you can't comprehend, but your mm-hmm. comprehension is not necessary.
It's not necessary. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that you're mindless. Mm-hmm. It's just to say that your mind is better spent on the habits, mm-hmm. like the habit training, mm-hmm. and the building of the character and the attitudes. Mm-hmm. Those are the things you can comprehend. Those are the things that you can discern and decipher. Mm-hmm. So focus your energy on that and allow the one who created you, or the thing that's larger than you, to work out its portion.
That's good. So we are rounding up. We're almost at 40 minutes. And I knew we said we were going to try to do around 30. So this feels good so far. So since it's your first time on the podcast, mm-hmm. I want to ask you the famous Hope Rising question. Oh,
goodness gracious.
So it is 100 years from now. Mm-hmm. And there is a museum, and it is a museum of popular culture. Mm-hmm. And when a person enters into this museum, there is a room clearly marked Hope. Mm-hmm. And when they walk into the room, there is a time capsule. And in that time capsule, there's some dance shoes from early in life. And there's pictures of the family. And there's the book you haven't written yet that is in there. And and some pictures of you standing in front of a million, some of those things that haven't happened yet. Mm-hmm. And then there is this clip. And in this clip, you are speaking life into someone who maybe is in need of hope. And they're trying to figure out exactly what hope is. Mm-hmm. What do you tell that person that hope is? Mm.
I would tell you that hope came before you. And that hope coming before you created an entire universe, intricately woven together with countless numbers of pieces that are all necessary. And you are one of those pieces
that's good.
That are necessary for this entire universe to keep moving. So don't give up. Look beyond yourself.
I don't know if it's appropriate to say that was a sexy answer, but that's appropriate for me. So that was...
Well, okay, I'll whisper in your ear later.
Check, please. Gotta go. That was definitely my favorite answer so far. No, that was excellent. Hope came before you.
Mhm.
I think that is absolutely something that we all need to keep in mind, is that, there's a scripture that says there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
And I think that it is so important for us to keep in mind, how do I say this? There are situations and circumstances that occur in our lives,
Mhm.
and it's real easy to think you're the only one or the first one.
Yeah.
And that thought can be so isolating that it makes you feel like you'll also be the last one.
Mhm.
And the truth is, something greater than you made greater things happen before,
Yes.
and greater things will happen when you're gone.
Yes.
And your testimony, when you get through it,
Mhm.
may be the actual thing that the next one needs to prevail.
Absolutely.
Scripture says, and they won by the blood of the Lamb and the telling of the testimony.
Yes.
And
Yes.
sometimes it's the things that I've gone through where I can only point to God,
Mhm. Mhm.
that ultimately becomes what someone else needs to hear,
Yes.
to believe.
Mhm.
And so I think that this was a good first conversation. And again, for those of you guys who are listening, some of you may be watching live and maybe you just jumped in. This is Hope Rising Live. So yes, we are really talking right now. It doesn't just say live and we're pretending.
It's not a premiere.
Right. And so the goal is every Monday, you guys will see a new episode come out. By the way, since you're watching right now, there's not even that many of you watching right now live. I got to tell you who's coming this Monday. I'm telling you who's coming. Do y'all know that this Monday is New Year's?
It's New Year.
It's New Year's. And so if it's New Year's, my man Jowdy, he's from Georgia. And let me just let you know, is the second one coming in?
He is.
Hi, Sammy.
Okay.
Come on. You're going to be on camera, though. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Now this is a family affair. Now it's real now. It's real now. So listen, I got another Georgia resident coming.
Yes.
This Monday's episode will feature me. You guys are going to see a big dose of Jason, the producer of the show,
Yeah.
and
What?
Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Hart Ramsey
Yes.
is joining us on Monday. If you guys don't know who Dr.
So
Hart Ramsey
exciting.
is, you need to look him up. I promise he is one of the premier teachers that you will ever hear.
Yes.
And Ash and I actually earlier this morning were watching some of the clips because I hadn't seen it since we interviewed him. That was over a month ago. Shout out to Jason for doing a great job in the edit. And so we're watching this episode and we're listening to just the wisdom that comes out of this.
Yes,
man, right?
It's so plain.
Right, plain
like
and
you
simple.
can pick it up and run with it.
That's it.
Yes.
We were one of the names we were thinking about for the episode. What you were saying, the art of simplicity, right?
Mm-hmm.
That one of the things he said when he started the interview was, I was put on the earth to teach and to make the complicated things simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to encourage you guys, jump on with us this Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're going to hear this interview, see this interview, whether you're watching it on YouTube or you're listening to it wherever podcasts are found. I promise you, the episode is a cannot miss episode.
It is. It absolutely is.
And then you also can't miss next Thursday. I don't know how it's going down. It's either going to be me again. It might be the four of us again. Most likely will be because Ash and I had part of our, we didn't make New Year's resolutions, but part of what we've committed to is both of us getting in front of the camera as often as possible. Y'all might come on here some Thursdays and it just might be her. It is what it is because we're just committed to doing what it is that we're put on the earth to do.
Absolutely.
Right?
Building skill.
Cool. So any last words that you want to share with the audience before we sign off?
This is fun. I'm excited.
It's beautiful.
Can I say something?
You want to say something too? You got to face the microphone. Go ahead. You say whatever you want. Thank everybody for watching today.
Say it with me. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. This is one of their favorite things to do is just to hold on to the last note of whatever they say.
Yes.
And whatever we say is true.
Yes. Did you say subscribe, Sammy?
Subscribe.
Don't yell. Don't yell.
Good.
All right. So, so you have to listen to them. They told you to subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave comments. Have you shared this episode yet? If you haven't, please share this with a friend, with a family member, with somebody who needs an extra dose of hope. And we look forward to seeing you on this upcoming Monday on Hope Rising, where the unfulfilled go for fulfillment and those in search of hope and inspiration.
And don't lose your mind! And don't lose your mind!
And they say, whatever you do,
Don't lose your mind.